There isn't a single organization anywhere in the world that wastes more time than the United States House of Representatives. I can't even begin to tell you how, this is one of the reasons why I'm seriously considering running for Congress in 2026. There's a bevy of them. First of all, my representative, I don't even know if the guy's still alive. I haven't seen him in years. He's never on television. He never does interviews. He's never pushing legislation that actually helps his constituents. He never does town halls. Hasn't done a single town hall in 10 years. So I don't even know if he exists. As for all I know, my congressman John Rutherford is just AI generated. he could just be a figment of some computer's imagination. But I digress. The rest of the House, they're not much better either. There are so many representatives that for whatever selfish reason, and I know what the selfish reason is, it's usually money in their bank account. It's usually some kind of super PAC forcing them to do their bidding instead of doing things that are actually good for Americans. We've had so much stuff happen this year alone that just begs the question, what are you people thinking? Why don't you actually do things that the world wants? Why don't you do things that the country and the voters have asked for? Why don't you take Donald Trump's executive orders? For example, the executive orders about there only being two genders, or the executive orders about shutting down the border and deporting people, or the executive orders about, making sure that the waste, fraud, and abuse by Doge codify all of that into law. That's really what Americans want. Americans want you to say, hey, rogue judges on the left, district court judges who are saying, you know what, we feel like there is just way too much executive power in the executive branch. We'd like to exert some of our district court judge power over the executive branch. They should be going after those folks. They should be saying, you're a district court judge. You only have jurisdiction in your district. You can't shut down deportations of dangerous, illegal MS-13 criminals and gang members and murderers and thugs for the entire country. That doesn't make any flippin' sense. But instead, we have congressmen and women, because there are two genders, who go to Congress and do things that just seem like a big waste of selfish time. And look, Anna Paulina Luna from Florida, I imagine she's a lovely lady. I imagine she's a good mom. I hear nothing but good things about her. She seems like a decent congressperson. But the fact that she moved to shut down the United States House of Representatives for an entire week, the fact that she moved, colluded, by the way, with a Democrat representative from Colorado who used her own baby as a political prop. The fact that those two shut down Congress for an entire week, a week where they didn't get anything done. Not one thing on President Donald Trump's agenda got done that week. Not one thing that helped the United States of America become richer or stronger or better or greater got done that week. And it was all because they decided they wanted to be able to vote from home so that they could, they could change their babies' diapers and, I don't know, bottle feed them or I don't know what's going on with their lives. But whatever it is, they didn't want to come to work. They wanted to vote from home. And it tied up an entire week of important votes in the House of Representatives, votes that did not happen. Now we've got this other thing going on, and Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted about it. It's a vote that's happening this week in the House of Representatives on H.R. 867, which is the IGO Anti-Boycott Act. It's sponsored by a guy named Mike Lawler, who's from New York. And now, look, I know that New York Republicans aren't real Republicans. New York Republicans aren't real Republicans because they're all in blue districts, or half their district is blue, or they can't be too MAGA or conservative because they'll lose. That's the, I guess you would say, word on the street, or that's the consensus, is that if you're a Democrat Republican or a California Republican, you're not really a MAGA conservative Republican because you could get booted out of office if you become, too conservative. So you always ride the middle of the road. But this whole thing is weird. They're wasting time again this week to vote on an anti-boycott act. An anti-boycott act, which means that if an American citizen protected by the United States Constitution decides that they want to boycott against Israel, if in part of a UN or other, EU endorsed boycott of Israel, if an American citizen wants to participate in that, it's illegal. Fines up to $1 million, prison sentences up to 20 years. Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote, "I will be voting no," in all caps. I don't know if you can vote in all caps. I think you just vote yes or no. She wrote, "It is my job to defend Americans' rights to buy or boycott whomever they choose without the government harshly finishing." Take two. It is my job to defend Americans' rights to buy or boycott whomever they choose without the government harshly fining them or imprisoning them. But what I don't understand is why we are voting on a bill on behalf of other countries and not the president's executive orders that are for our country. And this is, in a nutshell, exactly what's wrong with this bill. I don't want Israel boycotted by anyone. I don't want other countries to use their power of the purse or their manipulative power over their citizens to not purchase things coming from Israel in an effort to harm Israel. They're an ally. I get it. I love Israel. They're amazing. But at the same time, they got to deal with their own stuff. We can't be imprisoning Americans or fining Americans because they don't want to buy something from Israel for whatever reason they choose. It's in our Constitution. In fact, I have a copy. I have a copy of the Bill of Rights right here. Marjorie Taylor Greene's right. The very first amendment in the Bill of Rights. Here, let me read it to you. It says here, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You can buy... Well, let me roll this up real quick. It's really odd. You can buy or not buy whatever you want in this country. Well, I guess except health insurance. Thanks, Obama. You can boycott or not boycott whomever you want. You can protest or not protest whoever you want. It's the crux of our entire government. It's the keystone of our republic. It's the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution. It's so important that Americans have the right to free speech and the right to freedom of religion and the right to peaceably assemble, which basically, what is a boycott if not a peaceable assembly? If you say, look, I hate you, I don't like anything about you, I think you should go away and die, but I'm not going to fight you or hit you or shoot you in the face with a gun. I'm not going to do any of that. You know what? I'm just not going to support you economically. That is probably the most peaceable way to assemble against somebody or to make your voices heard. And well, I'll be honest with you, I've never participated in a boycott myself. That's not true. That's not true. I'm sure I've boycotted. I think I stopped drinking Dunkin' coffee when they started boycotting Rumble, but I'm not really sure. I didn't really drink that much Dunkin' coffee to begin with. But look, there are companies that maybe I'll choose not to support. And I don't want the government coming after me and saying, if you make a personal choice to not support that particular company with your hard-earned dollars, if you don't like what that company stands for and you don't want to buy their products, then we're gonna throw you in jail. I don't want that either. And Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't want that. And really no representative in the House of Representatives should want that. No Republican, no Democrat, no New York Republican who's on the brink of maybe being voted out. But again, not only is this unconstitutional, not only is it anti-American, but it's also a big, huge waste of time. And I don't know if you've ever seen a vote in the House of Representatives, but it takes a while. I mean, first of all, the amount of time already wasted on this. The first things first, this bill that Mike Lawler had to write, he had to write it, find a co-sponsor. He had to get it into committee where it's debated in committee. Then after it's debated in committee, they vote on it. They vote it out of committee. Then it goes to the House floor. Then they open it up for more debate. Then they close it for debate. Then there's a vote to move it on to the next step. Then it's the most lengthy. The House of Representatives wastes more time, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, than any other organization I've ever seen in my entire life. And selfish representatives, and look, I know why this bill's coming up. I know why this is happening. This is happening because Mike Lawler, probably in New York, just north of New York City, probably has a lot of Jewish constituents, and we love them. And he probably has a lot of Jewish business owners, and we love them. And he probably has a lot of people within his district who have ties to Israel, and that's fantastic for them. But we don't want to put any kind of government regulation on freedom of speech. It's like the most anti-American thing you can do. Here's the thing. When I talk, and I go out and I talk to a lot of people, I talk a lot about running for Congress. I talk a lot about making the decision to run for Congress. And I talk about how Congress is it's an easy job. Why? Because they give you the rules. They literally lay out the rules in the Bill of Rights. They say, in fact, the one I just read, it doesn't even tell you what you should do. It just says, don't ever do this. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Okay, if you make a law respecting an establishment of religion, that's a big no-no. So if a law somehow makes it to the House floor that does that, you just vote no. Same thing if it abridges freedom of speech. Same thing if it abridges freedom of the press. Same thing if it, it gets in the way of the rights of people to peaceably assemble, which this bill does. It is a clear no. And if it's a clear no, it should never be there in the first place. If you want to be a good congressman, and there's good Congress people, I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying Mike Lawler's not one of them. But there's good Congress people. Neither is mine, by the way. There's a lot of bad Congress people. But it's really simple. You look at each bill, okay? Bill comes to the floor. You compare it against the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. You know, the guidebook, the rule book that the founding fathers gave to Congress. They said, this is allowed. This isn't allowed. The Second Amendment, very cut and dry, right? I don't even need to look that one up. I know it by heart. The security of a free state, or a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, if a bill comes up and it infringes on the right of the people to keep and bear arms, that's an easy no. Why? It's right there in the guidebook. The founding fathers basically told you how to vote. You don't even have to think for yourself. It's all laid out according to the Constitution. So anyone who's a constitutional conservative, anyone who is America first, can easily take whatever bill is coming up, whichever House resolution is coming up, and they can compare it to the actual text of the Constitution of the United States of America, and they can decide, is this a good bill or is this a bad bill? And the problem is we have too many Republicans voting yes for bad bills and no for good bills, when it should be the opposite. You should be voting yes for the good bills and no for the bad bills. And I'm going to be honest with you, 99% of the bills are bad. 99% of the bills that come into Congress are either spending more of your money or putting more regulations on your freedoms. So they either want to take your cash or take your freedom. Either way, that should be a hardcore no. Just like Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's going to vote on this bill. Look, it's the easiest job in the world. These people go up to Washington, D.C., and they make it so hard. You show up and you vote. If you can't show up, you don't vote. No, let's spend a week making it so that new moms and pregnant women can just proxy vote from wherever they want. That's a good use of our time. You know how many pregnant new moms we have in Congress? Like 2. We wasted a week so that 2 people could vote without having to travel to Washington, D.C., while the other 433 have to get their cookies on a plane and make it into the Capitol building. Now, we're going to be wasting time, as Marjorie Taylor Greene says, voting to protect another country when we're not even voting to protect our own country. What is wrong with Congress? Too many people voting and representing the wrong things. You represent the people who sent you there. The role of each and every congressman, each and every congressional official, each and every representative in the House of Representatives is to represent their district. What does that mean? It means protect the people who sent you to Washington from the federal government. Protect the people who voted for you from the overreach of the federal government. But what happens? They go to Washington, D.C., and they end up protecting the federal government from the people with stupid bills like this one. You know what? I'm probably going to have to run. Now that I'm looking at it, now that I'm thinking about it, my congressman doesn't do anything. He doesn't care about anything. He's basically checked out. He's basically already retired. We're going to make it official in 2020. We're probably a couple weeks away from me just, diving in head first and making that big announcement, because these colossal wastes of time, not just their time in Congress, but taxpayer. If they're wasting time on stuff like this, it means they're not doing stuff that you actually want. So they're wasting your time too. They're wasting my time. And money, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time.